Welcome to the Believe in Texans podcast. Alongside former Houston Texans wide receiver, 6-year NFL veteran Cecil III, I am Patrick Creighton, host of Area 45 on Sports Radio 610, your home for the Houston Texans. And Cecil, we got our second preseason game in for your Houston Texans on Friday night, a 20-12 victory over the Pittsburgh Steelers, a game in which they actually played the whole game. I know that's a novel concept for some, but they played the whole game. And we even got to see some of the first stringers, even if it was only for a short period of time. But we got to see a few of those guys, none other than C.J. Stroud, who didn't play a whole lot, finished 2 for 4 for 41 yards, including a 34-yard touchdown to Tank Dell. Is there anything you glean from a game in which, well, C.J. threw 4 passes before he exited, but early on, for what you're looking for in a game this stage, what did you see from CJ? And is this just a matter of, hey, he's on time and that's all that matters?
Yeah, just being on time. Great pass, obviously, with the touchdown. Good read, one high safety, waiting for that. Or maybe it was 2 high, I can't remember, but just waiting for that backer to get out of there. Good timing to Tank. They're on the same page. I seen what I wanted to see from CJ, which is timing, running the offense, not too many pre-snap mental mistakes, seeing the field well, going through his progression. He looked like, to me, I saw enough where I'm comfortable with him only playing that short amount of time, right? Personally, I'm a firm believer in the first preseason game, which is technically their second, right? But, the first preseason game, they need to play a full quarter, really get those juices going, right? But I get it. I totally understand. I saw enough from CJ. Don't want him to get hurt. Great job. And it's just wonderful for me to see him go through his progression. Again, that's not normal for a young quarterback. You see, look to the left side, look to the middle, look to the right side, and you can physically see him go through his progression, his mind churning. That's a beautiful thing to see. He looks comfortable in the offense, second year in the system. Didn't like it was too much for him. He looked apart. He looked like the guy we want him to be. Which is a franchise quarterback for years and years to come. So only 4 passes, one of them being a touchdown. Great start to a preseason showing for him.
And if you're wondering what we mean when we say on time, we don't mean he showed up for work on time.
No, he wasn't late for the
game. he is at the development point or the readiness point that he is expected to be at this point in training camp, and he is not injured.
Yeah.
Okay. That is on time. He is not hurt. He is exactly where he's supposed to be. He's exactly where he's supposed to be. Readiness, preparation, where he is as far as timing with his teammates. All those things are right on time for him to be starting the season ready to go.
I would say this. Next game, I want to see more with him and his receivers. Right, I want to see the passing game evolve a little bit from the Steelers week. Right, I want to see him. Okay, what does it look like for him and Diggs to be on the same page? You know what I mean? Are they missing? Are they seeing the field the same way? What does it look like for him and Nico? What does it look like for him and Schultz? Right, I want to see a little more action from those guys. And again, that could be my impatience. Right, it could be just me being excited. It could just be being a fan of the team and want to see everybody get 100 yards like it's Madden or something like that, right? But I do want to see a little bit more as we go. But Coach D'Amico's doing the right thing, taking care of his guys, making sure they're, like you mentioned, on time, prepared, ready to go. He's seen enough. He took CJ out, no complaints.
You mentioned you want to see CJ get some more reps with Diggs, Nico, and Tank. Well, does he really need more reps with Tank? Because I swear, if those 2 guys don't have some kind of Bluetooth connection in their heads,
it's something special. I'm telling you, Tank is not, because this is interesting too. Tank wasn't in a lot of 2 receiver sets. He was in on the 3 receiver sets, right? So I thought that was interesting. Another thing that was interesting was, or this is what I think. Tank is not going to need 10 targets a game. Pat, he had what, 2 targets last week? 1 target? Like what was it like?
He had 1 target and he went to the house.
Like that's what you're gonna get from Tank. He's that explosive. He's a Deshaun Jackson type player. Like he doesn't need 10 targets. You can get that target heavy to Stefon. You can get target heavy for Nico. He doesn't need that. With his skill set, he's only gonna need 4 to 5, maybe 4 to 6 targets a game to make an impact on the game, right? So that's just exciting to see, man. I want to see I want to see more, but that's just exciting for him and Tank. Like you mentioned, that Bluetooth connection, that understanding of each other. They were rookies together. There's something special about you being a rookie together with your quarterback, and then you guys got a connection, right? That's something big. So I don't think that's going away for a long time, hopefully for another 10 plus years, right? But I do want to see that connection with the other guys just to make sure things are smooth.
I mean, there is a legit possibility. I'm not saying probability, I'm saying possibility. But there is a legit possibility you could get low-end wide receiver 1 production from Tank Dell this year, despite a limited number of targets, because he's a threat to go home every single time he touches the ball. And he's going to get a lot of one-on-ones. And I mean, look, nobody's going to give Stefon Diggs one-on-one. I mean, unless they're crazy. Nobody's going to give Nico Collins one-on-one unless they're crazy. Yeah. That means Tank is going to get some one-on-one. And if he's getting one-on-one, he's going to make guys pay. He's going to make them pay, especially if, you're able to run routes and I'll let you speak on this as, you might know a little something about how route trees are put together. As you run your 2 big guys, more as you drag them across one side of the field and pull the defense and then let Tank spring free on the other side. He gets the ball. In that case, it's just foot race time. He's not losing those.
Yep. He's not losing those. That he can make any guy miss. You can be in the phone booth with him. He'll shake you out your drawers. Like he is a smooth, quick dude. I like too. Tank was on punt return. Tank Dell was on punt return. That's another way to get your playmaker the ball. That's another way to get the ball. Like we talked about, right? He's a third guy right now. He doesn't need 10 targets a game. You got Nico, you got Steph. Well, guess what? Now you find another way to get him the ball, put the ball in his hands as a punt returner. The one he went about 15 yards down the sideline. Make a guy miss, get out of bounds, do what you can. Like he got hit by the punter pretty hard. I'm not going to get on that part. Tank, I need you to, be a little stronger against the punter. I get the punters are getting bigger and stronger these days, but I need you a little more shoulder or something with the punter, right?
Hey, listen, the punter got checked for a PED test the next day, okay?
But at the end of the day, he's touching the ball another way. I love that about Tank Dell. You can put him at punt returner. Now he may get 46 targets from CJ, but now he may get 2 to 3 punts depending on how much they want him back deep. That was exciting to see.
No, and I would expect they're probably going to figure out a way to get him in jet motion every now and then. They'll run reverse with him every now and then. They'll run bubble screens with him sometimes. They're going to find ways to get him the ball in space so that he can make that first guy miss and get big gains. And, when you have Diggs and Nico and Dalton Schultz, you just can't account for everybody. Mm-hmm. And you have a guy with Tank with his moves and his speed. That's why I love this offense. I think this offense is really going to be a top 6 offense, not just in yards, but actually in points this year. Last year, they put up, top 6 yards in the passing game. This year, I think they will convert those 3s into 7s, the second year in the offense. Let's stay with the receivers for a moment because you might have seen this on the socials and the medias. Mm-hmm. There was a animated conversation on the sideline during the game between CJ Stroud and Stefon Diggs. And there were some hot takes on the internet that they were having some kind of fight. They were, yelling at each other. This is Stefon Diggs being angry about X, Y, and Z and yelling and screaming. And that is not what I saw. I would like to know what you saw as, somebody who played receiver in this league for 6 years and probably had a few conversations with quarterbacks. Usually when I've seen receivers unhappy with quarterbacks, they're not smiling. They're not laughing. Right. They're not keeping their distance and doing some various gyrations of what sort. They usually get right up in the guy's face. Their face is turning red. The profanity can be read on the lips. We didn't see any of those things. This looked like just a high energy conversation between 2 guys who were seeing things and expressing them to other people because they want to win.
Listen, this gets me frustrated because Stefon Diggs gets a bad rap, and for whatever the reason, that's just what follows him, right? When a 10-year veteran receiver is talking about what he sees on the field to a second-year quarterback, The quarterback is listening. If you look at what CJ was doing, he was listening to what Stefon Diggs was saying. He was listening to him. He was into what he was saying. Matter of fact, he was even doing like a juke move, like, oh yeah, at the top of the route, you're gonna hit him with a boom, boom. Yep, I see what you're saying. It's nothing wrong for a quarterback and a receiver to have a conversation after a series. Matter of fact, guess what? It's normal. It's normal. It comes it happens all the time.
You don't say.
All the time. When a guy's running routes and sees something, and a veteran like Stefon, one of the reasons why he's so good, he's very detailed. He goes and tells the quarterback what he sees, or he's asking questions about, hey, if I do this on this route, am I going to be in the first window or the second window? Or, hey, how about I cut this route short, or maybe I make the angle a little tighter, and CJ is agreeing with him or disagreeing, they're getting on the same page. That is normal. Matter of fact, that's what you want to see from your quarterback and receiver. You want the communication. That's what you want.
Never happened in the history of the NFL.
Now, if you got Donovan McNabb in 2005 and chasing each other with Terrell Owens, that's the issue, right? that's something you don't want to see, but that's not going to happen. Stop talking bad about Stefon Diggs. Stop with the outlandish tweets, with the outlandish social media stuff. Stefon is not a bad dude, and he's not going to prove you guys right. Matter of fact, D'Amico just came out today and said how his attitude is camp has been great. If you watch Stefon Diggs, if you watch the other receivers in the room, don't even watch Diggs. Watch the other receivers in the room. They're following Stefon Diggs. They're asking him questions. They're staying after practice and asking questions and working on releases. They want to learn. They're being a sponge from Stefon Diggs. That shows you the type of leadership he is. That shows you what type of work he's putting in. That shows you what type of person and teammate he is. So stop with the nonsense, man. It's normal. It's not going to be the last time we see it. Stefon is going to communicate. That's a great thing. And from that communication, good plays are going to happen. From that communication, you're going to see Tank and other guys talking. And it's going to be a great communication on offense equals touchdowns, period. So just end that discussion, man. I hate seeing that type of stuff. Sorry, Pat.
No, listen, we have heard this from his coaches. We have heard this from his teammates. He has been all in from day one. He has exhibited leadership from day one. Who is tailing Stefon Diggs around camp all the time? Tank Dell. Tank Dell is literally in Diggs' back pocket all the time, learning, observing, picking his brain. Hey, what did you do with this? What did you see in that? And that's going to make Tank better. It's going to make CJ better. But, we have to continue this false narrative of Stefon Diggs is he's a bad guy. Stefon Diggs is a problem. Stefon Diggs is a locker room cancer. We got the guys on the Buffalo Bills podcast saying, oh, Stefon Diggs has lost a step, maybe lost more than a step. Come on now. Just because he's not on your team anymore doesn't mean we need to go with this nonsensical slander.
Pat, the offense changed. The second half of the year, the offense changed. What don't we understand about that? They started running the football. That's what happened. Oh, his production went down. The yards per this, yard per that, because they stopped throwing the ball. They were more focused on the run, and it worked for them. They were more focused on the run game. But it wasn't because he lost a step. Oh.
No, it's all because they ran the ball all over the Dallas Cowboys that they decided, hey, we don't need to throw the football. We'll just run it. And, listen, they're going to have to run it considering, they've got a rookie this year in Keon Coleman who might be their best receiver. So they're going to have to run the ball quite a bit. They don't have the weapons outside that they've had the last several years with Stefon Diggs, with Gabe Davis. They don't have those guys anymore. Stefon Diggs is now here, and people are going to see firsthand when this offense is all out there and together. He's not a step slow. If you've seen him in camp, he's not a step slow, people. If you think that he is suddenly, a diminished player, you're going to learn today. Because when you see him, you're going to feel really, really damn dumb thinking that this guy is on the downside of his career when you start seeing him play on a regular basis. Cecil, let's take a look at the running game because, Jawar Jordan had a couple good runs. Xavier Hutchinson had a nice 19-yard play there. Cam Akers had a few carries. Damien Pierce had 4 carries for 4 yards. On each carry, it looked like he took a ball that maybe could have gone outside and broke it off inside, and maybe there was nothing there. Then in practice yesterday, Laramie Tunsil comes back to practice, And here's Damien Pierce running behind Laramie Tunsil, breaking off big gain, big gain, big gain. Where are you right now with Damien Pierce? Is his job as RB2 in jeopardy? Is he fighting for that spot?
The culture they have, you're always competing, right, for your particular spot. But I think his spot is pretty solidified. I wouldn't read into anything what we see in preseason. The bookend tackles weren't in there. I wouldn't read too much into it, right? But I would pay attention because I wouldn't be surprised based on the cuts if they may bring somebody else in from around the league, right, to push him a little bit during the season. I wouldn't be surprised. If you look at the roster right now, he's the clear-cut number 2. That's not even in question. Not even in question. But is he the best back for this type of system? That question is yet to be answered. I'm not sure. Is he the best type of back to run in this zone scheme, outside zone, inside zone? Like, is he the best type of back for that? I personally don't think so. Doesn't mean he can't learn it, though, right? So my eyes are paying attention. Okay, next week, I think this upcoming Saturday, when the Rams come to town, what type of performance is he going to give? Because if the hole is there, and once we get the all 22 on Tuesday, we'll be able to see it from the Steelers game. If the hole was there and he missed it, he's still struggling with where to cut on his read zones, right? On his zone read. So it's interesting to see. I still think he's a solid number 2. Not going to read too much in the preseason. There's so many variables that go into it, right? But I do think he needs a good performance the rest of the preseason and in training camp practice. The one thing I would say, the Texans organization loves some Damien Pierce. They love him. They believe in him. They've seen the spark he had his rookie year. They've seen what he can do on the kickoff return last year. So I think they believe in him. It's just, can he execute? So the pressure is on him, really. Can he execute in this system? Can he be that back? Can he be patient? Can he wait for the cutback? Can he read the right holes? It's not just about going fast you can downhill like in a power or a counter scheme, right? You have to read the holes, set the blocks up, and be able to cut back. So can he do that? I don't know. I want to see more. So right now, I say it's solidified number 2 because the organization loves him. But I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see things get better in the next 2 games. If we don't see things evolve or with ascending his trajectory, I wouldn't be surprised if a big name get cut somewhere else, they go out there and get him.
Now, the Giants will come to town this Saturday, the 17th. The Rams will be in town the following Saturday, the 24th. Well, no, this is important because, they're going to play 4 preseason games instead of 3. Most teams are going to play 3. Right. So does the game against the Giants this week count as the dress rehearsal, or does the game against the Rams in 2 weeks count as the dress rehearsal?
I would 24th, and then from there is the 7th they play?
Or they play on the 8th.
They play on the 8th?
In Indy.
The dress rehearsal would be the not this week. Yeah, it'll be this week.
It'll be this week.
It'll be this week, yeah.
So this is, hey, we need to watch and see what he does this week against the Giants. And then if we're seeing Joe Mixon, who returned to practice yesterday, if we're seeing Joe Mixon play at all, maybe we see a lot of Damien Pierce in that final preseason game against the Rams as, established number 2 back because Mixon has returned and he's kind of recovered that one. Your thoughts on Cam Akers, Jawar Jordan? Cam Akers is a guy who, is kind of an established back as far as he's got a track record running the ball. He's got a track record receiving the ball. He had 3 catches for 24 yards in the game on Friday night. I know he's coming off of a second torn Achilles. He has now ruptured his Achilles on each leg in the last 3 seasons. Is Cam Akers a guy that you could see ultimately usurping Damien Pierce for running back 2 if Pierce does not show it in the games and Akers continues to play forward?
I don't see Akers being a threat to be RB2, right? Okay. I can see him being a guy during the season that can step up and play RB2, right? But he'd probably be a 3. I don't see him based on his injury history. We know he's a super talented kid, even come out of high school, Florida State, all that good stuff. He's super talented, great out the backfield when it comes to the passing concepts. But the injury history is hard. You got to depend on an RB2 to really run the rock, right? To really be an RB1 if Mixon goes down. I can't say I can depend on him right now in Cam Akers. Can he be a RB3, RB4? Possibly. But the issue with that is if you're a 3 or 4, that means you got to run down on kickoff. You got to play some type of special teams and be darn good at it, right? And that's where Darray comes in. That's where Jawar, what's Jawar's last name?
Jawar Jordan.
Jawar Jordan comes in. His ability to return kickoffs and stuff like that. So I can see him doing that, but I think it'll be hard for him to make the team. Talented for sure. But can he stay healthy? And then where would his fit be? His best fit might be somewhere else with another team, right? His best fit might not be here. Maybe he's a practice squad guy and you bring him up when somebody gets hurt or something. But I don't see him being a threat for number 2. I think he's a solid number 3 back, not a number 2. And number 3 and 4, as we know, like I mentioned, you got to be good on special teams. Like if you run down on kickoff, if you're being a gunner or protecting on punt, you have to be good at those things. He can do it. It's just not his specialty. He's a darn good back out the backfield. Maybe he's a better pass catcher than Damien Pierce, right? That can be. You can argue that. But down to down back, I'm not sure if he can carry the load if RB1 goes down.
He's former Houston Texans wide receiver Cecil Shorts III, 6-year NFL veteran. I'm Patrick Creighton, host of Area 45 on Sports Radio 610, your flagship home of the Houston Texans. And Cecil, let's talk about the offensive line, because one of the biggest storylines coming into training camp has been the offensive line, specifically left guard and center. And Kenyon Green, Scruggs getting another game together. And you mentioned that they haven't had the bookend tackles yet. They haven't had Laramie. They haven't had Titus playing yet. And Laramie getting back to practice yesterday. Titus Howard had an injury early in camp that he's still working his way through. So we've seen a lot of Blake Fisher at left tackle and rotation at right tackle. Yep. But Kenyon Green and Scruggs were considered the 2 wild cards of this offensive line entering the game. Scruggs, who last year missed a lot of time with injury, came back, wound up playing left guard. Kenyon Green was out for the season last year after a rookie season with a lot of ups and downs. What did you see from, let's start with Kenyon Green, because I think he might be the more important of the 2. What did you see from Kenyon Green in the game yesterday? This is a guy who played pretty well against the Chicago Bears in their first preseason game in the Hall of Fame game. Do you feel like he built on that on Friday night?
I personally did. I personally did. I think the biggest thing I saw, he was on the field. That's a big major step forward, right? 2 games in a row, and the only way you get better is by getting reps and reps and reps and reps. And he played a good amount again in the game against the Steelers. What impressed me about Kenyon Green, his ability to get to the second level. He dominated his first guy. He made the right read when it comes to different zone looks, getting the right contact, being in the right space, knowing his assignments. So I think he's getting better. I think he's like adding the days, stacking the days up and getting better. Just need to see more. If he can continue to do this, you're going to have a solid left guard, because what's happening with him and Juice, the more they play together, the more chemistry they'll have, right? If you talk to former players about offensive lines, about the chemistry they have, and they know in different looks and different fronts on when the defense gives them, they know exactly what to do without even speaking to each other, right? Or if they communicate, they're on the exact same page. So the more time they get together, the better they communicate, and the better for our running game.
Cecil, on the defensive side, Danielle Hunter didn't have a lot of snaps. He didn't need a lot of snaps. 2 quarterback hits, a sack, a tackle for loss. Danielle Hunter, I think he played about 7 snaps, and he was Superman on pretty much all of them. At some point, they're going to have Will Anderson Jr. out there playing next to him on the other side. Your thoughts on Danielle Hunter and what this Texans pass rush can be?
First of all, his veins, like his arms, like he looks like a superhero. He is huge. Like he just looks perfectly built for a defensive end. He's very intimidating, but he looked outstanding. That's why you go out and spend money on a defensive end. That's why you went out and got him. That's why, because of the impact he can make on rushing the passer. He was getting to that quarterback. He did his job. The 4 or 5, whatever how many snaps he had, and it wasn't many, he did his job. Quarterbacks against a mobile quarterback, right? Against a guy that's fighting that's going to be a starter in this league potentially. But Danielle Hunter is the ultimate professional. He's prepared. You heard nothing but good things out of camp. And then now for him to see his first time in live action in the Houston Texans white uniform, He looked amazing. And what that's going to do? What's that going to do? That's going to make the Derek Stingley life, Kamari Lassiter, it's going to make Jalen Petrie, Jimmy Ward, it's going to make their life easier because now the quarterback has to get the ball out quicker, right? So when you get that pass rush from that interior, from that front seven, when you get that pass rush from a Will Anderson, from a Danielle Hunter, it's going to make it easier because the ball got to come out quicker. It's going to be less routes. It's going to be less double moves. It's going to be more pressure on the quarterback to get rid of the ball quickly, which helps the defensive end, the defensive backs, really play really good coverage. So it's exciting, man. When you have a headhunter, I seen somebody tweet like it's hunting season with Danielle Hunter. When you have a guy like that, it's going to make an impact on one side of the field. And we haven't even seen Will Anderson on the other side of the field. When we haven't even seen Danico Autry when he comes back in the middle of the field, it's really getting scary. Like, it's really getting scary. If that's what we're going to see, it's going to be a scary sight for quarterbacks, and it's going to make it easier. You're going to see a lot of interceptions and turnovers and knockdowns from our secondary because when you get pressure up front, it helps the back end. That's just how it goes.
Now, obviously, when it came out that Danico Autry was going to be suspended for the first 6 games of the year, there's a lot of consternation about, all right, well, he was supposed to be the primary guy in the middle of the defensive line, right? He was supposed to be your anchor defensive tackle, and now they didn't have that anchor defensive tackle, at least not for the first 6 games. And, well, who fills that void? How do you fill that void? Well, so far through camp, Mario Edwards Jr. has been very impressive. He's been wrecking shop some days. And in this game against the Steelers, Mario Edwards Jr. made his presence known quite well. 5 tackles, out of half a sack, 2 tackles for loss, introduced himself to a quarterback, took him to the ground. So is Mario Edwards a guy that you think could be at least a short-term fill-in for what Danico Autry would bring to the middle of the defensive line?
I wouldn't say a short-term fill-in. I think he'll be a long-term answer, and I'm going to tell you why, because you're getting depth. That's what's happening. You're getting depth. So now when you bring Danico back, you can have Danico and Mario on the field at the same time. You can take Danico out, and if Mario's continuing to play well, guess what? He can hold his own. So defensive line are coming in the game staying fresh. So, yes, to answer your question, he can be a short-term answer, but he also can be a long-term answer, meaning he can make plays for this defense. So if you have Danico and Mario in the game at the same time, let alone Will, let alone Danielle, you're setting yourself up for long-term success from that defensive line and keeping those guys fresh because you can rotate those guys in and out. The best defensive line is a fresh defensive line. So if you can trust these guys that come in and play well and do their assignment and plug the holes and still rush the passes from the interior, I feel bad for these quarterbacks playing the Houston Texans this year.
Cecil, Christian Harris did not play in the game on Friday.
Yeah.
Came back to camp last night and unfortunately was injured, did not complete the practice, and, walked off the field very gingerly with some help from the training staff. We don't know what the extent of his injury is, but if he is going to miss game time, you saw Henry To'oTo'o, you've seen Neville Hewitt, and you've seen Jalen Petrie, who's been kind of getting moved all over the field with success so far this training camp. If the Texans have to be without Christian Harris for however many games, what do you think is the best way to attack that and have the best defense? Is it playing more Henry To'oTo'o? Is it going more with Neville Hewitt? Or do you think it's more leaning into Jalen Petrie and his diversity and showing different looks that way?
I look at it a few ways. Number one, I look at it, okay, of course, you game planning week to week, right? So what did they do well? And then what can you do well to stop it? I look at it that way, right? If it's a heavy running team, you probably need Henry in there to really help with the linebacker depth and shut down the run and be able to go sideline to sideline. If it's heavy pass, obviously you can put Petrie in there. But I also look at it this way. Your best 11 guys. Who are your best 11 defenders on the field, no matter what the position is? Who are the best 11 guys you can put on the field and be able to give that defense trouble? Because you can be creative as you want to. Because there's defenses where you can put Desmond King in the slot, and you can put Petrie in on the other backer, or he can be the nickel, or whatever you want to do. But who are your best 11 defenders? And find a way to get them on the field, right? And as an offensive coordinator, your job is to get your playmakers the ball. On the defensive side, how do you get your best 11 defenders and put them in situations to succeed? How do you find that, right? And if you ask me who's your best 11, it's hard for me to keep Jalen Petrie off my best 11. It's hard for me to put Neville Hewitt on the best 11, right? I'm not sure he can be down to down yet. Can he help in spells? Absolutely. But can he be down to down? I'm not sure. So who are your best 11? Maybe that's 5 DBs on the field. Maybe it's 6 DBs on the field, depending on who you're playing, right? Maybe that's Henry Toa there. You're going to have Alshir there no matter what. So you got to find a way, and this is what D'Amico and those guys need to figure out. Who are your best 11 defensive players and put them on the field? Because you don't have Christian Harris. Obviously, he's one of your best 11, and that kind of hurts that linebacker room. Okay, do you put Henry out there? Can he hold it down enough? Or do you need to hide him a little bit and move Desmond King in the slide at times? Do you need to put Jalen Petrie down there? How can you be creative and get your best 11 guys to really stop that offense and what they're trying to do? So I think it'll be a mix of things. But for me, it's your best 11. It's Petrie, and maybe it's 5, 6 DBs, and that's fine with me. That's your best 11. Let's figure out how to stop this offense, right? If it's not the DBs, then it's Henry and other guys. You got to figure it out. But for me, it's the best 11 guys got to be out there. And it's hard for me to have the best 11 without Christian Harris, the best 11 without Petrie and King in the mix some type of way.
All right, with the Giants coming to town on Saturday, how much do you think the starters, how much reps do they get?
At least a quarter. And I say a quarter and maybe a couple series in the second quarter, depending on how the flow of the game is going, right? Obviously, if somebody gets hit hard, they probably take them out. If they're struggling on offense, you probably see the offense a little bit more. But if you at least one quarter for sure, a solid quarter of the ones on offense and defense, and then they'll probably start subbing as the second quarter goes on.
He is former Houston Texans wide receiver, 6-year NFL veteran, Cecil Shorts III. I'm Patrick Creighton, host of Area 45 on Sports Radio 610, your flagship home for the Houston Texans. We are back on Friday with another edition of the Believe in Texans podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. And we'll be back with some more info. We'll preview that upcoming game with the New York Football Giants on Saturday. We'll get to that. Always appreciate my man Cecil joining us here on the Believe in Texans podcast. Until Friday, we'll see you then. Go Texans!